On one of our top stories, Chinese ships and aircraft will arrive in Solomon Islands within 4 weeks following the signing of a deal between the two nations. Joining us live now from Honiara in the Solomon Islands is journalist Dorothy, Wickham, editor at Melanesian News Network. Dorothy, we really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. What is the government there saying about what this deal means for the Solomons?
Well, they're trying to reassure Solomon Islanders that this deal is good for us. It's going to bring stability and assistance with security. As you know, we always have problems with rights, which does affect the way the development targets being met. So that's what the government is basically saying at the moment, even though they haven't revealed to anyone what's the contents of this treaty.
And what reaction has there been to the signing? What approach is the opposition taking?
I think everyone was a bit surprised because a lot of them thought that there'd be more consultation with our Pacific partners and also that there would be more discussions with our traditional donor partners, like the Americans were going to send in a delegation. But that's not the way Sugovaris sees it, and he's gone ahead and ensure that the treaty has been signed.
Is he a popular leader? Do you think that he will be able to win over voters there in terms of reassuring them, as you say, that this is a good thing for the Solomons?
I think you have a very different grouping of people. There's some who support what he's doing because they're fed up with the approach that has been taken by our traditional donors towards the way we try and address our development needs. And then you have the other group who are more traditional in the way they see things, and they're worried and concerned about China's influence in the country. And then you also have that whole picture of 80% of our countrymen are based in the rural areas and do not have much access to the kind of news that I in the capital have access to. So would view this whole issue very differently.
No doubt. Is it being interpreted that the Solomons is essentially choosing China over Australia and the US? And have you picked up on any anti-Australian, anti-US sentiment in the Solomons in recent years?
I think the Solomon Islands' relationship with Australia is still the same. However, I have said this before publicly and in other interviews, that Australia must change its narrative in the way it addresses not only the Solomon Islands, but the Pacific in general. And also to remember that if it wants respect and partnership from the Pacific, then it also has to take into consideration what the Pacific needs. And one of them is climate change. And as you know, 2 years ago, Scott Morrison went to the Pacific Leaders Forum in Tuvalu, and he left, leaving a lot of the Pacific Islanders very disappointed with Australia's behavior in that meeting. And so Australia must now relook its strategy in the Pacific and in the Solomons, and also start changing the way it talks to us. There's a lot of, we don't want to encourage this handout mentality by our people. So we need to change the narrative between the two countries. If we were to give Australia a stronger level of partnership here, then also Australia has to consider what are our needs. I think one of the things that Australia now does for Solomon Islands is the seasonal workers scheme into Australia. This is not new. This history between Solomons and Australia is not new. We had people from our country working in your cane fields a long, long time ago. So Solomon Islanders working in Australia is not new. But I think there needs to be a lot of improvement in that regard, processing their conditions of work in the area, and also opening up work visas into Australia for Solomon Islanders. I was just saying, if you want a group of people to accept how you think or how you see the world, then you also have to expose them to how you think and how you see things. You can't expect somebody in the village in Solomon Islands to come into Honiara and start seeing China the way the Australians see them. He doesn't live in that world. So it's also something that the Australian government needs to really look at in the way it deals with us.
Dorothy Wickham, fascinating to hear your insights from on the ground there in Honiara. We do appreciate you joining us with your thoughts. Thanks so much.
Thank you.